Thank you for joining us on another episode of Raising the Curtain. Today we will be talking with Rhys Lovell and Gail Dobbins.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Raising the Curtain. Today I am here with the Managing Director of Heartland Theater, Gail Dobbins, and the Artistic Director, Rhys Lovell. How are you guys today?
We're great.
Well,
good. So thank you so much for meeting with me today. I would like to start with you, Gail. Can you kind of give us a little bit of your background, how you got involved with theater and how you find your way to Heartland?
I got involved with theater because of the man I was married to. He was in theater, and then he found out that I was an artist. And oh my God, I could paint sets, I could make costumes, I could decorate cakes, I could do all kinds of stuff, and he loved that. I was in theater in high school too. My career really was marketing, healthcare marketing, nothing to do with theater. But late at night, I'd be there on the copier doing the programs, at my job for healthcare marketing. It was just any way that you could do both. You do it, and there's a lot of people like that.
How about you, Rhys? How did you get involved with theater, and what's your background?
I was kind of born into it. Both of my parents were theater majors at Illinois Wesleyan, where I would follow in their footsteps 20, 25 years down the road. So I think that I don't remember my earliest shows that I did because I was a toddler. Community Players was, I don't know if that's where I made my debut, but I do know I was on Players stage as a little kid, a very little kid. The play might have been Plain and Fancy. My folks both went to Wesleyan, fell in love there, got married, studied theater, and they continued to do theater. I used to live up until I was 3 or 4 years old. I was up in Pontiac, and my dad founded a theater there, which is happily still there, the Vermilion Players.
Oh, I did not know that. That's very cool. I know Vermilion.
My dad founded that. I had the privilege of going and seeing. They had a recent production of A Few Good Men. I had not been back there for probably decades. I was so excited. They've now put up plaques all around it. The history of the Chautauqua Park, goes way back, and there's great stories about people acting on rafts on the Vermilion River and people watching like a traveling show almost. Anyway, I digress. It was kind of a no-brainer for me that I would study acting in college. I didn't know when I was a student at Wesleyan and in the mid-'80s where I would be today. I imagined that I would continue on in theater, but I also had a keen interest in music. I feel fortunate, that I am able to act, but I also can play the piano and do some other things. I never take that for granted. Like, thank you for this gift. When I was in college, my attention was divided between music and theater. In fact, I started as a freshman. I don't know if I told you this. I started as a music theater major.
I was going to say that's what
that makes sense.
Wesleyan is known.
Yeah, I took voice lessons with the late Henry Charles. I was taking dance classes. You can understand why after my sophomore year I switched to straight performance. Because Rhys is not a dancer and he's barely a singer.
Gail, we'll go back to you. How did you get involved with Heartland Theater specifically?
I'll tell you, I'll never forget it. Mike got to direct for the first time here. He got to direct Glenn Ross.
Okay.
And he was so excited when Phil Shaw gave him a call because he had been wanting to direct here ever since we saw Don Chandro in Bonhoeffer.
Yeah.
And he was dancing in the kitchen. He was so excited. I'll never forget it. We had one of those phones with the long cords. And he was dancing around an island. He was so happy. Then the performance was great. Rhys was in it. It was a wonderful performance. It's probably one of the better things that I've ever seen Mike do. Awesome. And after it was over, I complained about the playbills. They got some student at ISU to do something crazy, so it looked like it was typed with an old typewriter, but you could not read it. I complained to the board, and they pulled me onto the board, and I think I've been involved in marketing at Heartland ever since.
What was your first year here?
Glengarry was 1995, but I think I got onto the board. I know I got onto the board, well, about that time, but I got involved with the theater before Mike did.
Oh, okay.
Years before that, yeah.
Was that your first show, Rhys, or had you been here a few years prior?
I go all the way back. Not all the way, but within the first 3 years.
He was like the first 5 years. Then I got involved after that. But
when I went away, because I was in grad school, and that took me up to Chicago. So yeah, there was a 5 years, and then I came back.
And he would come back and see if we were doing okay.
Oh,
and he was impressed.
And I remember the first show that I auditioned for coming back, I think it was Boy Gets Girl. And I knew Sandy was directing it, and she had directed me before in grad school.
Just jumped right in.
Yeah, which is what you have to do. You just have to take the plunge and go.
One of the first times that you came to watch a show, you wanted historical items, scrapbooks, anything I could get my hands on. And I remember following you out the back door. You had all of this stuff, and I thought, oh my God, I hope he brings it back. You know, because it's all original newspaper clippings.
Yeah, I remember. My story with Heartland began in 89 with this production of American Buffalo. This was before we had our home here at 1110 Douglas. But Phil Shaw had seen me in a production at Community Players of Cabaret. And I knew who Phil Shaw was. He loomed large in the community, but I didn't know him. You know what I'm saying? And he came and saw Cabaret. I played Ernst Ludwig, the German, and out in the lobby afterwards, he comes up to me, big towering, this is when he was able to walk, towering man, and he said, "Enjoyed your performance, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to be directing this. I'm hoping to direct this production of David Mamet's American Buffalo, and I would like you to play Bobby." And he said, "Do you know it? Are you familiar with the play?" And I'm like, "Do I know it? This was like my thesis."
Do I
Do I know it?
And maybe a week later, I'm sitting in his apartment with Dan Irvin and Ron Zielinski, reading David Mamet's American Buffalo with this. That was such a dreamy time of my life, because I was forging those connections with people who I really admired and respected, and were doing the same thing that I wanted to do. I could go on and on.
So you came in about 3 years after, like 1990, maybe?
1989.
1989.
Yeah.
So from 1986 to 1989, the original mission of this theater was to do new plays
Right.
in development, and then change them up based on the audience response, and then bring them back, and then do it again. American Buffalo was one of their first forays into drama.
Well,
Published works.
Yeah, published works.
And staging.
Yeah,
plays.
that's a really cool concept, though. I didn't know it was not showcasing.
It was very much showcasing.
Yeah, it was workshopping. That's what I was trying to think of.
Playwright showcase.
We're still doing that today?
Yeah.
We held on to some of those things. Yep.
That's a fantastic segue, because I was actually going to ask you, Gail, can you tell us a little bit about the founding of Heartland and the history of it?
Well, really, Rhys is in the founder's circle. So that first 5 years, there were a number of people that we credit to developing Heartland in the original few years. But the founders are Rita Kahn, who is a playwright, Carol Wright-Tan, who was the former mayor of Normal, and Philip Shaw. And they got together and they did some media interviews and had this concept about new plays showcasing. And then they started doing the published works in 89. I think American Buffalo was one of the first.
Yeah.
Well, My Name is Alice.
Right, and Night Mother. Yeah, there were a few.
They were trying to kind of get a footing on who are we and what do people want. And about the time that Mike and I came in, that's when Phil's health was starting to go.
Yeah.
And people were burning out, I think, because they didn't really have anybody working on the business of Heartland and developing volunteers and more people. We needed help. Same people, doing it and just exhausted. So
Theater is a business.
Yes.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So then that was some new energy, and we took off from there.
What's the current mission statement of Heartland?
To provide the citizens of Central Illinois with quality professional theater, utilizing first-rate talent dedicated to providing a lasting and meaningful theater experience for our patrons. That's the mission, but we have 3 goals.
Oh, yes, let's hear them.
All right, yeah, 3 goals. 1, to explore the human condition through the art of theater, to shed light on both the ideal and the less than ideal which exist in the world about us. And this is how I conclude almost all of my curtains, by sharing that particular goal. Secondly, the challenge to provoke and entertain our audiences, calling attention to the one experience we all have in common, experience of being human, and the shared pain, joy, sorrow, and celebration that it entails. And finally, 3, to maintain the highest artistic standards in order to provide the theater artists involved in our productions a worthwhile and fulfilling experience as they practice their craft.
Bill Shaw wrote a letter that was always in the inside front page of their playbill, and I took it and pulled it apart.
Yeah.
Think, Feel, Live was a contest we ran, a national contest with writers.
Oh, interesting.
And a gal in Des Moines, Iowa, read the letter that Phil wrote, which is this, more of in a letter form, and said, this is what it is. It's these 3 words: think, feel, live.
So just from doing the interviews that I have, most theaters are ran by a board, which I believe you guys do have a board. Other than Illinois Shakespeare Festival, to my knowledge, at least right now, no one else, to my knowledge, has an artistic director or a managing director. So I'm curious if you can kind of each talk a little bit about what that role is for you and what part you play in the theater now.
Yeah, well, let me first explain that Rhys and I partner 50-50 and report to the board. So he's got his job description that's mostly on the artistic side. I have mine that's mostly on the business side. They come together at times, and we, and we divide up and conquer a lot, to the point sometimes that people don't see us together very often, but that's because we know what we're doing.
Right.
And it really works. It does work. But we are fortunate that it's actually the founders who set that up, that we need staff. And at first, staff was all volunteer. It wasn't until we got a hold of an Illinois Arts Council grant that would pay a little honorarium to staff. We still are not salaried people. We are not full-time. We are stipend. You do this for this much money, and pretty much part-time.
Right.
So
well, part-time on paper.
Well,
right.
Overtime in reality.
Well, there are times when I put 80 hours a week in theater.
Most theater positions,
Right.
we're volunteer.
Right.
You're not doing it for the money.
No, you're
You're
not.
not doing it for the money.
No. So what was the question?
No, you're good. So can you talk about a little bit of detail about what a managing director does?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, God. I need my job description. Charge of the budget, charge of volunteer, in charge of fundraising, in charge of the facility, inventory, marketing, anything business oriented, contracts. A lot of it's supporting artistic, actually, because Rhys doesn't have a full-time secretary.
True. I
guess I'm an administrative assistant in a way.
Okay.
But it's pretty much a standard job description for a managing director in a professional theater. We really go by the professional theater
model
processes,
Yeah. Sure.
and procedures.
And then, Rhys, what about your role as the artistic director? Can you kind of tell us a little bit about that job position? It sounds very exciting.
Well, I'm overseeing everything else that Gail didn't just mention. No, but yeah, basically she's on the business end of things, and house management and whatnot. And I'm it's my job to find the best directors I can find to lead each production, and then support them with a creative team made up of the very best designers. So a lot of it is structural. Beyond that, once I've got people in place that I know are going to really be able to deliver the goods, Then I usually step back once a show is cast, get out of the way. In other words, let the director do the job that I hired them to do. And then about midway through the production, around the time they do their first stumble through, that's when I'll show up just as another set of eyes and ears. And I've had some directors who are very receptive to comments and suggestions that I've given. And then I've had some that didn't know that was what I was going to do. Maybe I should have been more upfront about that and resisted. And it all goes with the territory. But in a nutshell, I try to give my directors as much autonomy as I possibly can. Generally speaking, my job is to make sure that I never compromise our standard for excellence.
Consistent quality. That's
Consistent
our brand,
quality.
and that's the hardest thing to do. You can have a really good show, and it can all be beautiful, but the next one maybe not.
Right.
And you've
You're
got
only
to
as good as your
keeping it
last
up.
show.
Exactly.
Keeping that up. To my way of thinking, Rhys has got two big goals. One is the quality of the production. The other is play selection.
Right. That was
my next question.
Thanks for bringing that up. That is a huge piece of what I do. So each year, I have a play selection committee that meets usually beginning in October, meeting through the end of January. We spend those 4 months reading 20, 30 plays, but then we're also welcoming suggestions from elsewhere, whether it's patrons, members of the board. If somebody emails me and says, hey, my husband and I saw this show in New York last weekend, we think it would be a perfect play for Heartland to do. And that actually happened. Our patrons, Ray and Lori Bergner, had seen Bloomsday, which we just closed.
Oh, very cool.
And Lori reached out to me and said, your play selection committee should read Bloomsday by Stephen Dietz.
If your audience really knows you, right?
Yeah.
If they really know your stage.
And I think that's true for most of our patrons. We get them and they get us.
And it's true also of our play competitions. Those playwrights that have been in our space and seen what we do, they have a better crack at winning.
Yeah, play selection. I mean, everything begins with the play. They say that the playwright is the primary artist because that's where the germ of the idea is. That's where it comes from. So if you don't have good material, it doesn't matter if you get the best directors and the best designers in the world. The best of the best aren't going to be able to prop up mediocre material. It just doesn't work that way. So on the front end, it begins with the work that I do, chairing the play selection committee, and making sure that we're building a season that works as a whole, but then also each individual slot stands on its own merit.
Can you tell us a little bit about the inner workings of your board and what your board is responsible for doing for the organization?
They're a governing board, but they're also a working board. So we want them on a committee right away, one at least, and maybe more. So every board member kind of affiliates themselves with something that they enjoy, that they think that they can make a difference. So there's audience development, there's diversity, equity, and inclusion. There is the nominating committee. There is, help me, Rhys.
Oh, we got, audience development, outreach, site committee.
Oh, educational outreach, at their classes.
We've got a lot of committees.
We do have a lot of committees. They're not like invisible at all. They have objectives and they have reports they have to make every single month. And we'd like to see some action there. And I look at it as you can turn that board upside down now at that point. And those committees are really there to support you and I.
I believe so.
So I know Heartland is known for doing a couple of different specialty things, like your 10-minute play festival and your new plays from the Heartland. But what do you think sets you apart from other theaters in the community?
I think the caliber of the talent that we attract, and included under that umbrella, it's the playwrights whose work we deem to be quality or Heartland material up to our standards. It's all of the above, right?
We've only done 2 plays more than once,
Oh.
over 40 years. And people do say, where did you find this play? So it's not just sitting around trying to find a popular play or something that will bring in people. It's the mission. Also, I was going to say age-appropriate acting.
Yes.
That sets us apart. Age-appropriate. You're not, and no makeup on stage. The intimacy of our space dictates that we're not going to be able to, we can't get by with makeup on a 27-year-old to make him look like he's 50. So it's got to go age-appropriate. And the intimacy
of our space is my favorite thing about.
Yeah, no, I
as
agree.
a performer, I mean,
Yeah.
I know I wear a couple different hats here, but as a performer, just being immersed in that thrust space.
Mm-hmm.
It's like film. It's more like film. You're just there.
Yeah, I love the closeness to the audience. It's like you can feel the electricity.
We used to call it in-your-face theater until COVID hit.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
yes.
like, yeah,
Rhys
we had to
got-
pivot. We had to pivot
Pivot a
pretty
little
quickly,
bit.
yeah.
Do you know that it says in-your-face theater?
Yeah.
How do we turn that into a joke?
Right. What is your house capacity?
93.
93?
I was going to say 4.
With 94. Well, and if we're sold out, I can get another 20 people in.
93
Yeah,
and
we
a
can
half.
stack. We can stack people depending on how
We
strong
hang them
somebody's
from the
shoulders get.
rafters.
I would love to be back to a place where we're having to hang people from the rafters. We're so full.
We're
Mhm.
not back to normal after
No,
COVID.
Sure.
No, we're not.
So can you talk to me a little bit about the 10-Minute Play Festival specifically?
Yeah, Todd Weinberner, our former president of the board, he's written for us. He's acted for us. He has chaired the 10-Minute Play Committee for how many years?
It's 21 years old now, so I'm saying 15
And
or 10 or 15.
right, he continues to chair it. I get in. Well, let me tell you what he does, because that's answering your question. Starting in, you'll have to help me out with the month. We start accepting submissions to the contest because it's an international contest.
We launched both competitions.
Mhm.
And we're going to talk about another one in a minute.
Yeah.
On Labor Day. And so the 10-minute
and then we
play,
close it.
February 1 for
Right.
10 minutes.
Sometimes in recent years, I don't know what the correlation is here, but a year ago, we had our most number of submissions, which was 600?
Over that.
Goodness.
It was like 3 times more than we usually
Yeah,
get.
between 200 and
Wow.
300 is probably pretty close to what we get on a good year.
Mhm.
And the festival has grown and evolved to the point now that where it's got a worldwide footprint. We get plays submitted to us, and some of them end up getting produced. Coming from New Zealand, coming from Italy.
I was about to say, I
Germany.
didn't know it was an international competition.
Oh yeah.
It is
Very
as long
cool.
as the play is in English.
Yeah.
That's the only criteria.
Always
Well,
cool.
there's more criteria.
So you can imagine all the work that the readers have to do when 600 plays come.
That's tedious.
Yeah, although as Todd would tell you, you get to a point where you can tell, like in the first page or two, if the quality is there. So it's maybe not 100% accurate to say they read every word of every play. It's a big job, whether
Yeah.
it's 200 or 600. Eventually, they start whittling the number down, and then there's a second level reading committee that looks at them with new eyes, and then we end up with 8 10-minute plays that we produce together as one evening of theater. And we're looking for balance. You don't want to do 8 Greek tragedies,
Right.
but you probably also don't want to do 8 completely silly,
Mhm.
farcical things. You got to find a balance, and I think we do a pretty good job of that. I think generally speaking, looking at the plays that come in, they lean more towards comedy, and I think that has to do with the format. Writing a 10-minute play is really difficult.
Yeah.
It's hard, and it's a different
Have a
kind of
beginning,
writing.
a middle, and an end.
Yeah,
then
and you got to hit the
something
ground
happens.
running. Of course, you don't have the luxury of
10 or 20 pages to flesh out a character.
Right.
You gotta
Just go.
figure out how to make it work and work fast.
Mhm.
You about to say
The idea came from Julie Kistler, who
Right.
was at Actors Theater in Louisville.
Mm-hmm.
I know
And they
about-
don't do them as much as they used to, but she brought it back to Mike, and then Brian Simpson from Babbitt's Books way back when. Some people will remember that.
Yep.
We would print these out. This is before we could really get going on the internet here.
Mhm.
So they'd
Yeah,
be printed out, and they'd be in little boxes, and we'd deliver them to each person on the committee and have to wait for that person to read them and then the next person to read them.
Yeah.
How-
Now we've got a shared Google Drive where
Oh, yeah.
all there is
Convenience.
is
It's
like-
all different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. It's a completely different landscape.
And it's one
changed.
reason we have so many entries,
Mhm.
because there's a following. There's a lot of playwrights out there that are looking for these competitions.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And we have all the email addresses of everybody who submitted a play here for the last 21 years, and they know about it.
And how many plays that we originally produced ended up being the play was published, in collections of
Mhm.
short plays,
Quite a few.
or went on to receive, really pretty noteworthy.
Good
We
reviews
should
and
put a
stuff.
list together on that.
Yeah.
Quite
There
a
you
few.
go.
So
Right.
that
Yeah.
10 minutes was a portion of a bigger play.
How are the theme, waiting room and camp out? How are those selected?
That's more loosey goosey.
Okay.
Todd is always welcoming ideas, and I think he's probably banked
There used
a
to be
couple
a
hundred suggestions that have
Yeah,
come.
there used to be a committee that came up with those suggestions.
Okay.
And there's a long list that he can go back to.
Yeah.
And we have patrons that
Make
quite often
suggestions
say, why
and
don't you do something in the bleachers? I think the women's restroom at the mall, we get all of these.
Yeah, there's basically two types of plays that pour in.
Mhm.
Either the site-specific ones,
Yeah.
where every play is set in a diner or classroom or whatever, and then there are the ones that are much more abstract, like what we're doing this next summer is Ghosts.
Ghosts, yeah.
Right.
I came up with One Shoe.
Right.
And One Shoe
That was
a-
probably one of the first abstract.
was it?
I
don't
think,
know.
yeah, because it was front porch, back porch, middle porch.
That was an
Upstairs,
article
downstairs.
that was in the Trib. USA Today. Craig something wrote a regular column in there, and he
Mhm.
wrote a little column about what is that about, that one red high heel that's sitting in the sidewalk.
Anything you guys want to add about the 10-minute play festival?
I think it's our bread and butter.
Well, it is that, but it's also the doorway to Heartland.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
This is where the new directors come, the
absolutely.
new actors, the new patrons.
Yeah.
Patrons who don't think they can stomach an hour and a half or 2 hours in theater
Mhm.
to watch one play will come to this.
It was my first show I did here. Was the
It's,
10-minute
it's
plays.
it's not as much of a commitment. Actor, although
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, if somebody really shines in auditions, you've got all four directors go, be in my play, be in my
I
play.
went them.
Did you do more than one?
So
you did.
So I was cast in one, but I wound up having to fill in a second
That's-
one because an actor got sick. I was only on for one weekend though.
This was the library.
That was the library, yeah.
summer.
Miss Stumps Got It. That was the name of
Yes.
the show I was in.
Yes,
Yeah,
I remember.
I don't remember the one I filled in for, but I remember that one with.
With Rich as the janitor.
Yeah, it was Rich, and then
What was Miss Stump? What was that actress?
I can't think of her name. I remember Cody Rogers.
Sweet little lady
Yeah,
with
long blonde hair.
silver hair.
Yeah.
Becca something.
Yeah.
Rebecca.
Maybe I don't
They
remember.
moved out east.
Did they really?
Oh, okay. Well,
That
if you're
was such a-
listening, hello.
Well, so you can talk about the backstage experience and what it's like to work with all those actors. And
Yeah, I mean it's great camaraderie back there. Like everyone is so supportive of each other. But yeah, I mean it's a good time back there. It's fun, and we get donuts, which is nice. And there's also been I don't know when it happened, but there was a renovation
You know
done
who
back
we've got
there.
to give a shout out to real quick about donuts?
Yes.
He just stepped off of the board, but I got to give a shout out to Bill Zimmerman. Because Bill and Shar provided like clockwork. If it was production. I mean, it seemed like every time I walked into the garage, if there was any kind of an event happening, there was
donuts.
those bear claws, like bear claws.
Fried croissants.
Yeah.
And they were so good.
Yeah.
The kind that
You need a sugar rush.
Right.
Yeah. No, I think it's fantastic. But yeah, there was wasn't there like a recent remodel done back there with like your green room? Yeah.
And the men's dressing room.
With Michael Pullen's Memorial Fund money,
Oh, okay.
we built a green room back there because it's something he thought we should always have. We never had one. The box office.
Or just gathered right by the dock door, the garage
Yeah.
door there.
Always trying to
either sitting next to you a couple feet away would either be a snowplow or a soccer net, depending on what season.
We do have a great partnership with Town of Normal.
I really want to talk about the Mike Dobbins Memorial new plays from the Heartland.
Sure. You can start and I'll chime in.
Oh, I'm trying to remember how long. 14 or 15 years.
I'm bad on
That
Bad with
really
numbers.
years.
That really started, I've got to say, with Paul Harmon. He's the one that loved the idea of the 10-minute play festival, and he thought that we should do something for one-act plays. So we got together with Mike and kind of created a concept. But
one-act plays that were focused right on writers from
Illinois, and then we expanded it. Yeah, and
so
there
it's
are
currently a 9-state region.
It was 9, now it's 10.
Yeah,
we have people write in and say,
joke.
"Come on, Kansas is in the Midwest."
Right.
I would agree with that.
And then what we get a lot is, I grew up in Iowa, and I'm living in Pennsylvania now, but
I remember my days.
I should be able to.
I have 1,000 plays in me about my time as a kid.
And we can't.
You got to cut it somewhere. Yeah. So
you got to draw the line.
Yeah.
Very cool.
The nice thing about the new plays from the Heartland is they are longer, and so you come to know the characters. You've got more time with the characters to sit and live with the characters. Characters are usually a little more dimensional, and you've got a plot, which is not to say that a 10-minute play doesn't have a plot, but I have found, my experience has been that a lot of 10-minute plays, even the best ones, revolve around a gimmick. Just one idea that the writer spins for 9 more minutes.
Right.
And there's your play. Versus, a carefully crafted story.
There's like more meat and potatoes in it.
Yeah, and that's why we allow it's between 30 and 45 minutes in length and up to 6 characters. Whereas with the 10-minute plays, maximum is 4.
And there's a big difference. It's a program, and it's funded, grant funded and sponsored, because we bring in a nationally known playwright to, first thing they do is judge that they pick the final
they're the ones
plays.
So we have that reading committee does the same thing that the other one do, where they whittle it down to 7 or 8 plays, depending on what's there. If we have 9 plays that we think we ought to recommend, we're going to put forward to the judge. We're going to do that. So we will email the guest playwright, unbiased. Here are 9, let's say 9 plays that we think deserve your attention.
Yeah.
And from there, they pick the 3.
The 3.
Yeah.
And then there's a workshop, a master class, basically, for those winning playwrights. They get a little bit of a honorarium. That doesn't happen with the 10-minute plays.
Right.
But the 10-minute plays, I always tell everybody, it costs about $11,000 to put that play on stage and market it. And so they're seeing their play completely realized. It's got the lights and the set and the costumes and audience, 14 times audience.
Right.
And so the winning playwrights are really getting something that they want in the 10-minute plays. 1-act plays is 2, but it's staged reading, so it's not completely produced.
There's a staged reading, which
Has blocking.
Right, which has blocking, which
Yeah.
is what new plays from the Heartland
That's
is.
what I thought.
It's not the actors just parked behind
Standing there
music stands.
reading. Yeah.
That's closer to what the plays the thing is.
You don't maybe know that's a third new play.
Oh, yeah.
project.
Yeah.
Yeah, it began, well, it's sponsored by John Thicke.
Hmm.
His play, Safe Like the Sparrowhawk,
Yeah.
was the one that launched, and it was,
We thought we'd try it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
See what happens.
and we bring in Rhys picks a playwright who has a play in progress. The
Mhm.
whole point of it is that the audience, the actors, the director help that playwright make that play better. And outside critics are brought in. And so there's a little bit of we can help you with this. What if you started Act 2 this way? Or what if-
right, and this year's Pam Morgan, Pam's play Load Bearing Walls, I've already met with the actresses. I usually precast this just in the interest of time. Yeah, it's Christy Zimmerman, Linda Reddick, and Jen Malloy, who are featured. It's a three character play, and we're really kind of putting the pedal to the metal on this now.
And that one, the playwright is there
Hmm.
for the last week of rehearsal. That's a big difference.
Okay.
Yeah, like in residence with I
Yeah.
invite them to please be present. Feel free to interrupt me or to say, this is
Last year,
this is what I
Gail
meant.
was our playwright, was from Chicago, and she stayed with me.
Okay.
And so she'd, get her backpack, and off she would go to rehearsals every night. And this time in marketing this one, I'm really pushing on the local aspect
Mhm.
of her. This would be the first time that we've had a local playwright for this project,
Other than John Fickett.
other than John Fickett,
Yeah.
the founder.
Yeah,
Awesome.
right.
Yeah, I got to direct one of her plays with Nomad Theater.
Was that Gloria Mundi?
Hmm. Yep, I
Yeah.
directed that, and we took it to the Indie Fringe Festival.
How long ago was that?
That was September of 22, so just a little over a year ago now, when we took it to the Indianapolis Fringe Festival, and we performed it.
Yeah, how was that experience?
It was interesting. Like I had fun. It was good. I've never directed a show that small before.
Small meaning.
3 people.
Okay.
The smallest I had done up until that point was, I'm going to say 4.5, because one person just sat at a piano, and that was title of show. But no, I mean,
So you're saying what you've been accustomed to directing were
Is-
larger
yeah, I
big
typically do at least
musicals,
20
yeah.
plus people. Yeah.
So just can I ask you?
Yeah,
really
no, let's
quickly?
go.
Yeah, what do you find yourself drawn to more?
So me as a director, and I have to shout out one of my professors, David Preet. He was my directing professor this past spring in my graduate program. And one thing he had challenged me in the class was, I've always gravitated towards directing musicals purely for, I love musicals. I think I can have more fun with them, and I can kind of push boundaries a little bit more with them and make changes. I don't know if you saw Jesus Christ Superstar.
I did.
But I directed that, and it was
I thought
a little quirky, if you will. And we
With
pushed.
Trey.
Yeah, with Trey as
yeah.
Judas and Mina as Mary. Yeah, great experience, and I adore that show. But I wanted
Brian
to do
Hartman.
yes, Brian
Hodges.
Slade as Pilot. I adore that man so much. So for me, I think I struggle directing plays because I don't feel like I can push those boundaries
Straight
the same
plays.
way. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel with straight plays. Nothing against them. I prefer to act in straight plays and direct musicals.
That's fair.
And
I get that.
yeah, and I'm not sure why that is. I'm also a big character development person. I firmly believe the concept of taking this written being and putting a face and emotions and movement to it, that is what fascinates me.
Same.
Yeah, I love directing and doing the overall picture, but ask my cast in Jesus Christ Superstar, we spent the first hour of rehearsals just character work and teaching varieties of acting techniques for them to develop their character and having one-on-one meetings just to really build that. So that's what I really like to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I need to direct more plays just to, get my foot wet with those. Yeah.
Thanks. That was just,
No, I love it.
it's a different skill set.
It is.
For
for each one.
Mhm.
You know, for big shows, musicals, you got to have your eye on so many
So many elements.
other things, because it does. The musicals, larger shows, they rely to a certain extent on spectacle.
Yeah, I do.
And I think for me, I'm more drawn to the
Subtle.
bare stage, two act waiting for Get Up, right? And
Right. And then I have your website pulled up here. Can you tell me a little bit about, because I've always been curious about it. You're young at Heartland.
It started out also about 20 years ago. And White
Mhm.
read an article in a magazine about this senior acting troupe. I don't even remember where this troupe was. It wasn't in Illinois, because the Illinois Arts Council has deemed our program to be unique to the state. It also kind of was born at the time when everybody was looking around saying, oh my God, we're going to have a lot of seniors around.
Mhm.
Those boomers are going to turn into seniors. And these seniors who retired were looking for something to do, or they had done theater and couldn't while they were working, and it was just a reunion for them to do it, and friends and fun.
community. Yeah, community is a big part of it.
Then as it developed after about, they would just do small, short scenes. And there is a group in town that called Playwright Anonymous that does some smaller plays for them. But then it started to develop into a lot of the members writing their own plays, writing plays themselves. So then it was the seniors are acting, the seniors are writing, and it made it even more unique.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just been very popular, and I just think every community needs it.
When I think of Heartland, I definitely think of it, like you said, as that niche element in the community of doing these new works and doing shows that, not everyone is going to have on their radar. And I think that's fantastic that you guys do that and really kind of put these shows in smaller casts too.
Yeah.
And
Part
really
of
work
that's
with those.
by necessity.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's, historically, we've had decent turnouts at auditions. Please, if you're listening and ever thinking about auditioning for a Heartland play, I will greet you at the door with donuts that I buy rather than Bill going out.
All the donuts.
Yeah.
They'll kiss your feet.
I'll come audition for
Well,
donuts.
right now, going back to the play selection committee, we've probably already read 8 to 10 plays that we've given a serious look at. And there are a couple that I'm close to having to write off or take them off the table because their cast sizes are just, I have to be realistic
Right.
about what we can do. And this was a bit of a rude awakening for us when we put Water by the Spoonful
Mhm.
on our season. And Gail and I and Don Lacasse, who was going to direct it,
Yeah.
we understood early on and tried to impress that on people that,
No show if we don't have.
if you don't
those
have the right actors for the roles,
Mhm.
and it was all, roles. Well, no, there was one white male, but otherwise all the characters were of color.
Well, the Latinos were the hardest ones to find.
Oh yeah, we really didn't even have an option there. We had some people, and I don't want to name names, who came forward and were tentative about auditioning, maybe even spoke to me in advance saying, I'm not exactly this, but I can pass as that.
Mhm.
Can I audition? Would you consider me? Again, we have to be realistic. We're in downstate Illinois. We don't have the resources that Chicago does.
We only have 8.7% are non-white.
Yeah, that
in
was
McLean
a
County.
metric that really kind of.
And
I
of
thought
that percent, how many of them
have any interest at all
Yeah.
in doing theater? In fact, I think we did that research on our own, independent of one another.
brought it
And
to
then
each other.
it's like
So you can try, and we tried. We're glad we tried.
Yeah, and we're going
And
to
we're gonna
continue.
keep trying.
Yeah. Well, you look at, we're doing Clydes. 3 actors of African American actors, 1 Latina, and then a white guy, joking white guy. It's going to be tough to cast, and it's not just going to happen in a vacuum.
Yeah, no.
We need to be doing the legwork now and figuring those things out that
Get
maybe
the
we dropped the
marketing and all
ball on with Water by the Spoonful. What we do have going for us is that Jason Bales, who I think is a magnificent director, is directing this for us, and he's African American.
He directed one of the 10 Minute
Yes, he
Plays.
did.
Okay, I was like,
Yeah.
I know that name.
2 of them.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. How did COVID impact Heartland?
No, it hurt. It was tough. I mean, there was nobody that came away from COVID at least a little bit messed up. You know, nobody came away unscathed, and some, as we know, folded. A lot of theaters folded. So I was scared. I think Gail was scared too. But one thing that I said early on, once it hit in March of 2020, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, okay,
March
we're gonna have to
13th.
close our doors. We're gonna be shuttered for who knows how long. How do we remain relevant? How do we keep ourselves out there so that the community knows Heartland's okay? Maybe we're all behind, you know, masks and filters and things now, but Heartland's still out there trying to get it done. And I don't know when the thought of doing radio came to me, but I do know that a back burner idea that I had been thinking about for a long time was the original Orson Welles War of the Worlds.
Yeah.
And doing that is, I was picturing it then, pre-COVID, of, you know, a live on show.
Live radio show, yeah.
Like 1940s radio hour. Yeah, yeah.
Where they're standing there in the studio.
Yeah, but I thought, well, this is, if we're going to do radio, now's the time. Let's pull out that play. I began talking with WGLT about partnering with them. You know, if we get this put together and have it professionally edited.
And mind you, we cut our budget down to 0.
Right.
Because
we're
of
pinching the
COVID.
pennies.
Yeah.
Big time. And so War of the Worlds was the first one that we did. Aaron Colucci was my sound designer, engineer, jack of all trades, who really sold it. I mean, his name is on the project as much as mine. But it was successful. It was aired on Halloween night, I believe, and it was, I don't remember what anniversary of the original airing of it. And that finished, and there was a little bit of buzz for a while, and then it got dark and quiet again. And
no, we lined them up
well,
because this didn't come along till later. We did some things to get out of the gate in a hurry.
Right. Well, it started early on, this idea of keeping ourselves out there.
Oh, that idea right away.
You know, posting pictures and then going through our archives of the 10-minute plays and choosing.
We did the
jewels. Yeah.
10-minute plays from better days. We were like, what do we have? We only don't want it. It'll take us a while to do this stuff.
Yeah.
So we had beautiful photos. And so we did a photo contest, different ones on Instagram. I would have done this differently because it was a nightmare. Facebook, Instagram, and then email, all different pictures. And if you won them, you got flex passes you could use. We didn't know when. You would win passes to see a show when there's ever going to be one at Heartland again. Didn't know.
Yeah, everything was so up in the air, and there was that constant.
And then we did the hot shorts.
Yeah, hot shorts was. So was that before?
That was after. I was in between. We had done War of the Worlds.
And then we did hot shorts.
Yes,
and then the Christmas one was an adaptation of Gift of the Magi.
I remember seeing that one, or hearing that one, I should say.
And Tony Reimer came on to engineer that one and knocked it out of the park. And then he returned when we did It Happened One Night, directed by Robert Quinlan.
That one was really good.
Yeah,
A lot of eyes.
I was so pleased with the way all three of those
Well, and-
turned out.
NPR is just blown away by our quality.
Yeah,
And
John Norton at WGLT was effusive in his praise.
Well, we
of
keep
how
having
well
to
it had been.
repeat them every year.
Yeah, yeah, you listen to it and it sounds like it could be produced by PBS or
Yeah.
How can people get involved with Heartland? I mean, obviously there's auditions, but how else? Street team, board, box office, anything like that?
Well, often we're talking in board meetings. Sometimes this comes up. Just this idea of our committee members. Committees don't have to be made up solely of board members. It's helpful. I think healthy to get somebody who's nonpartisan, who comes on
A committee.
Yeah, just comes on. So you can serve on a committee.
You can volunteer. A lot of people start out as ushers and then they move in.
Your
There
reception
are
committee.
things that you can do. You can help with props, even if you don't want to be in charge of them. Just like with any theater. I
Yeah, being
think.
an assistant.
Yeah, just don't be shy. We open our arms to all kinds of people everywhere, all ages, all colors, all levels of education. It doesn't matter. We would love new people. We got a lot more new people during and after COVID. We're not quite sure why. It could be Rivian. It could be Ferrero. We're not quite sure why, but it started showing up in our online ticketing, names that had not
didn't
been in
recognize?
reservations. And that's continuing, which it needed to. We've got an older audience. There's kids kind of like we've got a younger and an older, and the middle's gone.
So how can the community help Heartland?
We exist on grants and donations. Our ticket prices are not going to cover everything, and that's true of every theater I know. But donations, we need their help volunteering. They don't have the money, it doesn't matter. Give us a few hours of your time, your talent.
Yeah.
Donations are great. Get involved. Come here.
And
That's what you can do. Come here.
Come here.
and talk about us. I mean, we're always going to be. I hope that we continue to have those conversations, and I encourage my audience in my curtains. Sometimes, I'll say, if you like tonight's show, tell 3 people, or
Word of mouth does a lot.
yeah.
I told you Rhys was involved before Mike and I were involved. So Rhys said that, then tell 3 people if you like tonight's show. When Mike came on, he used it. Did you know that? He used it. If you like tonight's show, tell 3 people.
Where can listeners find you guys online? So I know you have a website. What about social media and stuff like that?
Yeah,
Facebook,
Facebook, Instagram.
Okay.
We use Constant Contact a lot, which is an email program that we're getting your emails from reservations.
So the website is heartlandtheater.org. Pretty simple.
Theater with
R-E. Yes,
Yep.
absolutely. So I'm going to ask you guys a couple of just like personal fun questions, but I do want you, I know you have some events coming up in December. I know there's I don't want to mispronounce the name of it. The play's The Thing with load-bearing walls.
Right.
When does that go up?
The 9th. Well, let me read off the poster rather than guessing. I was right. Saturday, December 9th at 7:30 p.m. and Sunday, December 10th at 2 p.m. We'd only do two performances. Again, this is a staged reading. And then that next Monday, the 11th, and Tuesday are auditions for Every Brilliant Thing. And we would love to, it's a one-person show. We could talk for another hour about that show. But obviously, a one-person show is a huge responsibility for any actor. We encourage everyone to come out, even if you're kind of on the fence about it. I think the director, Aaron Sparks, part of his audition process, I know this to be true, we just talked about it on the phone, is just simply sitting down one-on-one with it and kind of interviewing them. Yeah. Yeah, this is, if this relationship doesn't work between director and one actor,
right.
the show is probably going to have some real problems.
And he's coming here from Texas, is that correct, to direct the show?
Yes.
Very cool.
He's going to be staying with my wife and me. I don't know that our daughter knows she's given up her bedroom yet, but we'll cross that bridge.
Who was the director of Life Sucks? Liz?
Liz Fisher.
And she was from Austin.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And they know each
that
other.
whole hub right there became really the connection with us here. Deb Alley, who was working on her MFA and directing at ISU, same time that I was working on my MFA and acting, she ended up going down there and running their program.
Oh, how cool is that?
Fantastic person.
Deb Alley, just a wonderful, amazing human being. And then Liz Fisher, I'm pretty sure. Sandy Zielinski, who sort of orchestrated Hot Shorts, made sure that everything was happening the way it was supposed to, found Liz Fisher as a director, but she found her through Deb.
Anyway, Sandy Zielinski, Liz Fisher,
Deb Alley,
Aaron Sparks.
Aaron
was in Tribes that Sandy directed. Theater is a small world.
It is. Do you guys have a favorite play or musical
that we've done, or just
in general?
In general, I've always been a Sondheim person over Andrew Lloyd Webber.
Yes.
So many of my favorite musicals are his, but I love Assassins. I love Company.
I love Company.
Which I think either one of those we could do here if we had the musical talent along with.
You guys have the right stage for Company.
We don't have enough audience seats to do something like that, though.
We get
to think about it. If it's too bad, you have to pay for it.
I don't know that I have a favorite play. As a younger guy, I was all into Mamet, David Mamet, Sam Shepard.
Absolutely.
It's like that's. If you were doing Shepard or you were doing Mamet,
you're somebody.
You're pretty cool, but Sam Shepard left us some years ago, and he's just not as hip in 2023.
Right.
So who's the new hip?
I don't know. Well, that's a great question.
My favorite musical, The Robber Bridegroom.
Wow.
It's an oldie but a goodie.
I love it. And I mean, you can't beat, it's not really a musical. Jacques Brel is a live.
I love Jacques.
Love that music so much.
Quick story about Jacques Brel. Sandy Zielinski directed that for Normal Parks and Recreation back when I was in high school. And it was done out of the old Maxwell Park by Parkside. And I had done some other show, maybe Guys and Dolls, opposite it that summer. But this person named Sandy Zielinski was directing this play that I had never heard of, except it was French, so it had to be really. But I remember seeing it. You talk about images that are just.
So did you sing The Middle Class?
I wasn't in it.
Oh,
I just saw.
I can see you singing The Middle Class.
Or Funeral Tango.
Funeral Tango.
so many great songs. But no, I remember watching this production, knowing nothing about it, having never heard the music before, which was not like anything I had heard and associated with music theater. They were these little, smoky like jazz songs. Where am I? But David Baker, Paul and Sharon's son, was one of the company members, and he was a couple of years older than me at NCHS, and I was always a little bit in awe of David because
He was a hell of a talent.
He's an actor in New York now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He's still doing it. But he performed the song "Statue," which is this man. I mean, Burrell was very political, right? And a lot of his songs were anti-war. And this song called "Statue." It wasn't so much the lyrics or what it was saying. It was just it hit me. I mean, yeah, I was a kid. I was 15 or 16 years old, and David was only 17.
Yeah.
But I thought it opened up my eyes to what music theater could be, because I had always only thought music theater could be this. I was way into compartmentalizing back then as a younger person. Now I think I see bigger picture.
You could hype up Heartland Theater in just one sentence. What would it be? This is always the hardest question.
Think and feel and live.
Period.
Yeah, that's not the grammarian in me says that's not a sentence. Think, feel it.
It is too.
We think, feel, and live. I don't know. That's hard. How about we dare to go to places that others? No, that sounds
Fear?
No, yeah, we dare to go to.
Dare to explore what other people don't. I don't.
Yeah,
I get what you're saying. That's hard to phrase.
We're not boundary breakers, although we've never shied away
Right.
from what might be considered controversial, or it's like, oh no, we can't touch that. We're not going to do that because of this. Is it a good play? Let's just ask that. Is it a good play? Can all of us sitting around the table, can we agree that this is a good play? And then we'll talk about, technical demands. And yes, all right, we might figure out.
Something to do with the heart of the matter. It really is. If the play is the heart of the whole thing, if it's got to be the right play, then you build your actors and your staff around that, and then the audience is around that.
That's a tough one, actually.
All right. Anything else you guys would like to add?
Just thanks for doing this. I think this is great, and I certainly wish you well.
Thank you, Rhys and Gail. To learn more about the Heartland Theater Company and their upcoming shows and auditions, visit their website, heartlandtheater.org, and be sure to follow along on their social media pages. The plays The Thing, featuring local playwright Pamela Morgan's Load-Bearing Walls, will run Saturday, December 9th at 7:30 and Sunday, December 10th at 2:30. Auditions for Every Brilliant Thing will be December 11th and 12th at 7 p.m. Next episode will be on December 10th with the artistic director of the Illinois Shakespeare Festival, John Stark. Thank you for listening to Raising the Curtain with Ashley Raylin, available on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube. Thanks again for listening, and as always, support live local theater.